woman left a comment under my video that not even her husband knows that she has hidradenitis suppurativa, that she keeps it a secret even from him. And hers is not as severe as mine, so it's easier to hide. And it got me thinking, how do you fully heal if you're constantly hiding? There's this phrase that's been echoing my mind from a sermon that I heard. And it says, when we deny the problem, we prolong the solution. You can't fix what you will not face, and you cannot heal something you're pretending isn't there. And this doesn't just apply to HS, it applies to every area of our lives. And so then it got me thinking, why do we hide? One, shame. Like our bodies, we've been told that it's something to judge and not to understand. We hide because of fear of rejection, that someone's going to see it and they're going to choose to walk away from us. And we might not want to lose that person. We don't want to be alone, or whatever the other reason. Like, no one wants to be rejected. And then there's the learned fear. Maybe we grew up feeling like we couldn't be vulnerable. We couldn't be open. And in a lot of families, especially Black families, like you can't just be open about what you're going through, especially with mental health. That's something that you are to hide. It's a shame or whatever it is. Hopefully we are starting to break that stigma. And then there's the perceived fear. And it's what we tell ourselves of the narrative that we play in our head, that they're going to walk away. They're going to judge us. That this is going to be the outcome if they know the truth. But hiding in isolation, that's his own hell. How can you ever be fully supported if you're not fully known? Like if you're constantly having to hide part of yourself, how can someone ever really show up for you? Or how do you even know that they're going to actually show up for you when things get hard if you don't allow them in? And I know what it's like to live in isolation and choose that isolation because of, for me, it was a lot of learned fear and fear of rejection. I've had people look at me and choose to walk away, and that's hard. Like I said, nobody wants to be rejected. Nobody wants to be felt like that there's something wrong with them. And if someone chooses to walk away, that's a them problem, not a you problem. That's a decision that they made in themselves, and that's okay. That isn't anything for you to internalize. And I know saying that it's easier said than done. We'll work through that in a later video. But I remember with myself going off to college, and none of my roommates knew that I had hidradenitis suppurativa. None of my friends knew. It wasn't until I started posting videos 7-8 years later that my friends were like, wait, you were going through this the whole time? Like, what? Like, they were in disbelief because I hid it well. And I don't know if that's a badge of honor or not, of how alone I was, even in a room full of people, even with so many friends who later on with this condition have supported me, and I could have had that support then, but I chose to keep them at a distance because I've had the instances where friends weren't so friendly, where family wasn't so kind, and people would say things because I don't know if it was because they wanted to hurt me, or people are just naturally hurtful, but I just learned to keep it to myself. Even my sister, like watching my videos, was like, I didn't know that it affected you that much, or that you would get them in this area of your body, because again, it's not something that I ever told anybody. I just kept it to myself because it was easier. There was nothing that anyone could do to help me. And so if you can't help me, my thought is like, why tell you? There's nothing that you can do to support me. And it felt like something that someone could hold over my head. And there's this whole mental side of having a chronic illness and dealing with it, especially at a young age, which is why I created this platform, because isolation and retreating within yourself can make the healing process even harder. Um, Not just the mental, I honestly think the physical can make it even harder on yourself, having that constant stress. One thing that I've been learning in my walk with God is that healing requires honesty, that He can't heal you, He can't heal the version of you that you're pretending to be. Um, and that doesn't mean that you tell everyone everything, but that you do need to have someone that you can be honest with, that you can be real with. And that is what I hope this channel can be, a place where you can be real about what you're going through, about trying to navigate loving the skin that you're in, with whatever that issue is, whether you're dealing with hidradenitis suppurativa or PCOS, diabetes, or you're dealing with a family member who struggles with addiction. Believe me, I know that. Both my parents are addicts. If you are dealing with a crisis of faith, or you're dealing with not feeling like you are beautiful. I grew up, I was the ugly child. I was my mama's ugly child. I was the darkest. I was the fattest. I had the skin condition that left me scarred. Like, I was the ugly child. So, I mean, I get it. I get it. Really, I do. And I say that laughing now because literally don't believe it. But for a long time, that was an identity that I held on to. It was something that I heard, I internalized, I repeated. And I had to learn how to break out of that cycle, that mindset, out of having someone else's opinion become truth to me. And it goes back to, we have to be honest with ourselves. And we have to be honest about the things that we are telling ourselves, of where that comes from, whose words these are, and realizing that their words are not true. It might be true to them, but it doesn't have to be true to us, and it doesn't have to be something that we live with. But again, it requires that we be honest with ourselves and about what we're going through. I want you guys to think, a little bit of homework, because it's who I am. I give out homework. What are you denying right now? Or what are you hiding right now that you might need to confront so that you can start healing? Again, when you deny what's going on, you prolong the healing. And going back to the lady at the beginning, the story of her husband, I don't know him, right? So I can't say, oh, you need to tell him, because we know our partners better than anyone else. And it's a hard conversation to have. I'm actually going to be speaking on a panel about living with chronic illness, living with hidradenitis suppurativa, to be specific, in dating, because the reality is it's hard. Many of us, looking at my own life experience and the experience of different warriors that I've talked to and that have messaged me, we stay in relationships too long because of the fear of, we're not going to find anyone else. So we just kind of put up with whatever. We hide parts of ourselves, and we are never fully supported because we don't feel like we will be, or that rejection will come if they knew the truth, if they knew who we really were. And that's a hard thing to live with. Constantly feeling like you have to be putting on a show, that you have to put on a performance instead of just being truly who you are, because if people knew the truth, then they would leave. We're going to dive more into, if they leave or if they want to leave, let them. Step away for a second. But when I say let them go, I don't say that passively. I have dated one person my entire life, like actually been in a relationship with one person. I didn't meet them until I was 31 years old. I never had a boyfriend before then. I'm gonna be real with you guys, right? I don't know any way to be but real, right? I didn't believe in sex before marriage. And I told them we dated for a year before we had sex. And it felt like something that I felt like I had to do, especially talking with some of my guy friends of like, oh boy, ain't gonna stick around forever. Like, and so I was like, oh, I gotta do this. And long story short, we dated for 4 years. And then the Lord, even before we broke up, right, before that 4 year mark, was like, hey, this isn't the right relationship. Like, hey, you need to end it. You have to let him go. But I felt like I didn't want to let him go. One, because he wasn't a bad person. He wasn't a bad guy. He was really nice. He was a good person, but there was just a lot of things we did not align with. And I'm not talking about just spiritually. I'm talking about wanting marriage, wanting kids, wanting just the life. But it felt easy to stay. It felt like I don't want to have to explain this condition to someone else. It felt like, would anyone else accept me the way that he did? Would I spend the rest of my life alone? Because although I look at myself and now I see that I'm beautiful and I'm worthwhile, will anyone else look at me and see that? And the real, like, to really be honest, right? Living with this condition is hard. So I really do get kind of not wanting to tell your husband or tell your significant other, because it feels easier to hide. It does. It feels easier to stay in a relationship that is not serving you anymore, because the reality of, I'm going to choose to be alone. Is that better? I'm going to choose to, like, it's too hard. It's like 2 hard decisions. I choose here and I stay hidden. I never fully accepted. I have to constantly perform, or I choose this, and I may or may not find someone else. I may or may not spend the rest of my life alone. And it sucks. Like, it's 2 decisions that really do suck. Like, I get that. And so when I say let them leave, or let that be the end of the relationship, I'm not saying it from a passive point of view of someone who has it all together. From the point of view of someone who's married or in a happy relationship. I'm saying it from the point of view of someone who's only had one relationship, who loved someone and tried bend over backwards for it to work, to the point where, I'm at odds with God because I want this to work so bad, and I don't know why he's telling me this is not it. And I'm single now. I still don't know. Maybe I will be alone. But I got to the point where I had to choose me. I had to choose my relationship with God. And not everyone's going to be coming from, this faith point of view of choosing God. But even without, if I'm honest, the Lord and just the conversations with him, I knew we weren't aligned. I knew what I wanted in life. I knew that I wanted marriage, that I wanted kids. I knew I wanted someone that could communicate with me. And I didn't get it. And I felt like, okay, I'll settle. I'll settle for this, because anything is better than nothing. And then I had to, really think, Crystal, is anything better than nothing? Is playing small, shrinking within myself, pretending to be something I'm not, really better than just being alone? And I thought, well, I don't want to be lonely. And I'll be honest, it's been a year. I was more alone and lonely at the end of this relationship, in the last year, than I have been in this year of singleness. I've been finding myself, rediscovering myself, and doing all these things, right? But it was more for me, and being honest, lonely, feeling like I had to pretend. It was more lonely being something that I wasn't, and putting on a show and being with someone and still being isolated because I couldn't be honest. I couldn't be who I was. And this wasn't about HS. Like, he knew I had HS. He'd seen the scars. I did a whole reveal of like, here's my scars, you know, to see his reaction. And so like that wasn't the case, but in other aspects, right? So I'm not just talking about with HS. Like, there's some times where we feel like we just have to accept whatever is given to us because it's all we deserve. Whether we are dealing with, we're overweight and, you know, no one's going to accept us. So, and I feel like a lot of times, especially with being overweight, people feel like you should just be grateful that someone has chosen you and that you should just take whoever and whatever, because you are fat. Or, you know, even with HS, because you have a chronic illness, you just take whoever and whatever, and they can do and say whatever. That's not the case. You don't have to put up with that. This video is getting a little long. I'm long-winded, especially on this topic. I just, again, I want you guys to know, always choose you. Always bet on you. And if the decision is ever to be made of being your authentic self and choosing yourself and being honest with yourself, or having someone else there, I hope you learn and want to always choose you. I hope that in loving the skin you are in and loving the person you are and who you are becoming, that it becomes easier to always choose you.